I was having trouble with headaches, and I was having trouble making things like simple Excel spreadsheets work. I couldn't figure out the math, which didn't compute because I had been using Excel spreadsheet for years and I couldn't figure it out. So, and the headaches kept getting worse, started minor, and then I'd never had long-term headaches before. So we went to see a doctor. He said, okay, fine, go down and get some test down at the hospital, and I'll call you in a couple of weeks. Well, I never got out of the hospital. He called the doctors, had them make me report back up to his office. Subsequently, he says, you got a problem, you got a growth in your brain, and I've got an ambulance coming for you, you're going to the hospital right now. This doctor took a look at me, and he took a look at the reports, and he said, well, I'm going to give you a craniotomy tomorrow morning. So the next day, the 27th of April, I did have a craniotomy, and subsequently he called us in and said he didn't get it all, and scheduled a follow-on craniotomy 1 month later, and wrapped it up and then sent me home. We then went into a period of chemo with Temodor, and followed by 6 weeks of radiation. And at the end of the radiation, they took another MRI and said, you got another one growing back through all of this, and we can't do anything more for you. It's not good. You've got maybe 3 to 6 months to live. So basically, Victoria started looking around for other places to go. Her family started looking around. They had kind of like a group with everybody researching everything. And Victoria had found Burzynski and had thought about it, and her mom found Burzynski, and when the two of them came together, then we started seriously considering. My oncologist, the radiologist, the MRI guy, and everybody we talked to said, he's a quack. You should not do that. I mean, he's dangerous. And we basically said, well, we did our research, and this is what we want to do, and you can't do anything for me, so why not? Well, it's not good. It's not smart. It's a fake. It's a scam. He's going to take your money, and you're not going to get anything. I mean, it was everything that you'd hear from someone that didn't know anything about it, but really didn't want to do it. So, but they weren't in the position that we were in.
It didn't seem that they had any facts and figures and concrete evidence to debunk him.
Good point.
It was just maybe what they had heard. There was no choice at the decision point. The regular medicine didn't work.
James Treadwell underwent a biopsy performed on April 27, 2004, by the pathology department of the Naval Medical Center in San Diego, where they diagnosed him with a glioblastoma multiforme grade 4 brain tumor. After his first surgery was deemed a failure, another biopsy was performed by the same institution 1 month later on May 26, 2004, and confirmed his diagnosis. After his May 26 surgery, James underwent radiation and chemotherapy at the Naval Medical Center. He then also consulted with the UCLA Medical Center to get a second opinion, where they confirmed his diagnosis and gave him the same medical advice as his doctors at the Naval Medical Center. However, after 6 weeks of radiation and a month of chemotherapy, James's tumor had returned to a size of 3 centimeters by the end of September. After exhausting all available mainstream treatment, and against the advice of the very same doctors who said there was nothing more they could do for him, James Treadwell enrolled himself into one of Dr. Burzynski's clinical trials. Here is the September 22, 2004 MRI showing the enhancing portion of James Treadwell's tumor. James had started his anti-neoplaston treatment on September 24, 2004. Just over a month after starting anti-neoplaston treatment, James's tumor began to shrink. It continued to shrink over the next 2 years until November of 2006, where it was simply too small to measure. His tumor remained too small to measure for another year until it completely disappeared and was considered resolved in April of 2008. James also underwent PET scans during most of this period, which also confirmed his tumor regression. James has had multiple follow-up MRIs of the brain since this time, which have all shown no tumor recurrence, the last being September of 2008.
When we come back, it's been 5 years now and I'm still healthy. He says, well, I told you that he was a quack and I wouldn't recommend him, but based upon your performance and what you've done, I would tell other people in your position that they might consider him. That's a high recommendation. And the point I was going to make before is, it's like the traditional medicine knows what they have been taught traditionally. And if there wasn't a class on this, then they don't know about that. And it's not certified, not approved. So it's a limitation of knowledge, not at least from ours, that they'd only heard bad things. So
Glioblastoma, the most common primary brain tumor in adults, is usually rapidly fatal. Median survival is generally less than 1 year from the time of diagnosis, and even in the most favorable situations, most patients die within 2 years. Despite of post-surgery radiation therapy plus chemotherapy for newly diagnosed glioblastoma multiforme, these tumors continue to relapse. Our FDA clinical trial data for glioblastoma multiforme clearly supports this. This chart shows 4 groups of patients treated using only radiation and chemotherapy, reported between 2000 and 2005. Out of all 798 patients, not a single one of them were cured. 38% of them lived 1 year, 12% lived 2 years, and no one lived 5 years. This chart shows 18 groups of patients treated with various forms of gene-targeted drugs reported between 2004 and 2005. Out of all 671 patients, 2 of them were cancer-free at the end of treatment. 5 patients lived 1 year, 7 lived 2 years, and no patients, including the 2 who were cancer-free due to treatment, lived 5 years. This same chart shows 4 groups of patients treated only using anti-neoplastons. Out of all 368 patients, 20 of them were cancer-free at the end of treatment. 208 patients lived 1 year, 77 lived 2 years, and 19 patients were both cured and alive 5 years later. 19 of 368 patients is still a fairly low number of survivors. But by the time people are diagnosed with glioblastoma, considering how rapidly this type of tumor grows, it is usually too late for any of these patients to survive at all. And when you consider that there are no survivors within competing clinical trials for this type of tumor, anti-neoplastons are credited with at least 19 more cures than traditional medicine is currently capable of producing in a clinical trial setting. Not to mention, anti-neoplastons are non-toxic. Those who are doomed to die of their disease anyway live out their final days with a higher standard of living than those who are subjected to traditional toxic treatments. James Treadwell underwent radiation and chemotherapy before seeking anti-neoplaston treatment and managed to survive without suffering any noticeable long-term side effects. However, Susan Hale was not so fortunate. She has had to spend the last 11 years in weekly physical therapy sessions in an effort to repair the damage caused by her radiation treatment.
We go all the way back to crawling on the floor and doing all the different basic, skills to help get through it. So, she's developing.
There was only one medicine which was approved for brain tumors in the US within the last 12 years, which is temozolomide, Temodar. A pharmaceutical company which was testing Temodar found early enough that Temodar works only for minority of patients with brain tumors who have abnormality of one of the genes. And they predetermine who has such abnormality, and they got great results. Of course, in private practice, these results were not as great because the doctor used this for everybody. But there's a way to predetermine. If you know what to do, okay, you can simply run determination of this gene in the pathology material which is obtained from surgery, and you know if you should use this medicine or not. If you know that you are making the right decision using this for this particular patient, it is justified to use and it may help this patient. On the other hand, the patient will only spend a lot of money and get a lot of side effects. It will take years to change the mentality of the doctors here and those who are giving money for medical research, because so far the predominant mentality is everybody is the same, everybody should receive the same treatment for this type of diagnosis, and this treatment is obviously a combination of a limited number of chemotherapeutic drugs. Okay? Clinical trials are designed based on the fact that every patient who is accepted to clinical trial should have the same diagnosis, and the same regimen should be used. And clinical trials should be designed based on the principle every patient is somewhat different. We should design treatment for individual patient, and the main common denominator will be to make sure that you use the treatment which is the best for the patient and will make the tumor to disappear quickly without causing bad side effects. But certainly such principle does not exist at this moment. So that's a sad situation. I hope that it's going to change over a number of years, but I think it will still persist for another 10 years or so.